There is a newly formed tasting guild called the Saguaro Bay Tasters Guild, and right now there's only 2 members. But uh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this is a kind of not a blind taste, but just some impressions of some spirits that were sent to me, and just kind of what my initial impressions are. We're out on the porch today. It's actually a nice day. There were actually 4. But I had already drank one because I was so excited. So I'll give you my initial notes. The first one, or I'll name all 4 of them first, and then we'll go from there. The first one was Laphroiag 10 Sherry Cask, a single malt from the Laphroiag distilleries. The second is the Sovereign Single Cask by Dailuaine, I should say, and it's a 10-year. And then the Glenmorangie Tale of Cake, which is one of their limited editions, which I've wanted to try. And then, of course, the only non-Scotch of the 4 is the Uncle Nearest. And there's some really interesting story about that, and we'll go into that in detail as well. So first, the Laphroiag 10. I'm a big fan of Laphroiag. There's a lot of people that think that it is just a smoke bomb and a peat bomb. And it is. I mean, a lot of people that aren't Scotch drinkers will say that it is like licking an ashtray. It's true, and I have to be in the mood for it. However, the Laphroiag 10 Sherry Cask is matured. It's a 10-year, just their 10-year Scotch that's actually matured in Sherry Cask. And what I got out of it when I first drank it, it was the typical Laphroiag, very medicinal, almost a Band-Aid flavoring, Band-Aid feeling to the nose. That was the best stuff on the nose. And as far as the tasting is concerned, to me, it was it was wonderful. It had all the greatness of Laphroiag 10 with that smoke and that peat and that char and that medicinal flavor, but it also had a little bit of maple and bacon in it. So it was like a Laphroiag 10 with maple and bacon. It was absolutely delicious. So I apologize I don't have that one here today for the tasting. Now, in between each one, because I'm a fragrance person too, this is coffee grounds, and I'll be doing that to clear the palate. Now, I have not done any tasting. I haven't done anything on the nose, anything on the palate, anything on the finish. So we're going to kind of do these at the same time. So the first one we're going to do is the Dailuaine Sovereign Single Cask. It is a very light, almost an apple cider as far as the look. It is pretty oily. It leaves a pretty good thickness on the glass. Wow. Very much apple cider to me. And I'm going to write these notes down as I'm going. There is that medicinal. But very nice. It's got a sweet undertone. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it's almost a pear with the apple if you were to take, a pear and an apple. So let's take the first taste. Not very hot on the tongue. On the palate, it's not very warm. It warms up as it's there. But it gives I still get the apple and the pear, and I get I don't get a lot of peat out of this at all. This could also, this seems like it could pass a little bit as a bourbon. Very nice finish in the throat, very warm. I'm trying to think of anything else that I get out of it. No, but that's very nice. It's got a very almost if you were to breathe in while you're drinking this, it almost has that wasabi hit. Not much burn, but definitely an alcohol hit. This is enjoyable. I don't have any water out here, but I bet you water would open this up quite a bit. So that's very nice. And that's the Dailuaine 10 single cask. It's got a pretty high 59.4 ABV, so that's pretty good size proof, and it's very nice. I would definitely consider getting a bottle of that. So let me clear my palate out. And now we're going to switch from Scotch, and we're going to try the next one, which is Uncle Nearest 1856. Now this is a really interesting whiskey because this is acknowledged to be the first completely African American owned distillery in the United States all the way back then, and it's won numerous awards. It's a mixture, it's a blend of bourbons and some other whiskeys, so it can't be really called a bourbon, but it is between 10 and 14 years old, I believe. It's got a really nice caramel color, very thick, as you can see. I don't know if you can see that on the glass, but very thick, leaves a good amount, and on the nose, really sweet. Don't get much alcohol. Maybe a little bit of an ethanol hit. Burnt sugar. Maybe a little bit of maple. Pleasant. Okay, let's see how it is on the palate. Good strong heat finish, but I get roasted peanuts, some dried fruits. That's interesting. That's very, very nice. It reminds me a little bit it reminds me a little bit of Wolcott Bottled and Bond. But very nice finish, nice and warm, not too much of a powerhouse as far as that goes. And I believe this is 100 proof. Very nice. I would drink that neat. I wouldn't open that up with any water. I may try it, but it's got a nice finish on it whatsoever. And I apologize. Like I said, I've never done one of these before, so this is different for me. But it's interesting to do this because then I can write down my notes and everything else. Now this last one, I've wanted to try for some time, only because it's got a really cool type of name to it, and it's really nice. Oh, very, very sweet on the nose. Apples, pears, maybe, no, I would say apples and pears. And it's almost, there's maybe a little bit of baking spice in there, and almost an orange juice, you know, the acidicness that you get from orange juice. I'm going to try clearing my nose palate again. Yeah, sugar, apples, maybe a tad bit of cherry and orange. But you know, if when you were younger, you'd go to those roadside stands and they'd have that cold apple cider. That's what it was. Again, very thick on the glass. Leaves a really nice ring. Oily, definitely oily. It tears up a little bit, but not too much. But very interesting for a single malt. Okay, here comes the first taste. Interesting. That apple and pear, in fact, when you first take your sip and your palate and your passages start to get ready for the liquid on the tongue, it smells so much more like like the peaches that you used to, or not the peaches, the pears that you used to get out of the can, but ice cold. On the tongue, however, a lot of that sweetness vanishes. On the tongue, you get a little bit of burnt sugar, but more of that apple and that pear. The finish does have a little bit of heat, but it's fairly linear across the board. Not as sweet as I thought it would be on the finish, but you can taste that sweetness. And this is something I think would be okay for special occasions, but not as a daily sipper. It's just a little bit too sweet. But very enjoyable. None of these are peaty other than the Laphroiag 10 sherry cask. So that's it, folks. The first kind of tasting from the Saguaro Bay Tasting Guild. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. We'll do more of these as time exists. Thanks, and have a great weekend.